see this big blue sphere receding. It was awe-inspiring.
You've paid $20 million to do it. To spend 10 extraordinary days in orbit.
Good to be here. Whoa!
We're going with him inside the Russian space program. From the busiest launch pad on Earth to a platform in space. And back to the life and death drama of re-entry. Come inside to the ride of a lifetime. If you want to rocket into outer space, this is the place to go. More people leave for space from here than any other place on Earth. 10 to 15 launches a year. It's a patch of desert in central Kazakhstan called the Baikonur Cosmodrome. For 50 years, dogs, apes, satellites, and cosmonauts have all rocketed to outer space from this spot. Now, for only the third time in history, a paying customer will enter orbit. In just 3 days' time, a spacecraft called Soyuz is due to lift off, bound for the International Space Station. On board, a Russian cosmonaut, a NASA astronaut, and Greg Olson. The first two ride for free. It's their job. Greg's along for the thrill. And he's paying $20 million for the privilege. On the timeline to launch, it's T-minus 72 hours. And counting.
Attention, comrades. Here's the work plan for today, product number 017.
3 kilometers from the launch pad, in a vast hangar, a giant Soyuz rocket is about to be bolted together. Sergei Obakov heads an assembly team that now has 12 hours to put the Soyuz together. Any longer and the launch could be scrubbed.
During the assembly, all my commands are very short, but the people here know what's expected of them, and they know what they have to do.
The most critical job? They must attach an emergency escape rocket. No other space program uses one, but when things go wrong, this rescue missile is a lifeline. And things do go wrong. September 26, 1983. A Soyuz was about to lift off. Something went terribly wrong.
There was an accident at the launch pad, a fire and explosion of the rocket.
The fireball reached for the capsule and its 2-man crew. Rocket fired. It lifted the capsule and the 2 men inside to safety.
So one time in history, this escape rocket played its part. One time. And I hope to God that we never have to use it again.
The rescue pod must be dead straight, fitted within half a hair's breadth. Otherwise, it could end up killing the people it's meant to save.
Of course, it's difficult. With this size and weight, when you have to be precise to 1/10 of a millimeter.
The technicians have been at it 3 hours. they can't get the rocket to line up.
What measurement do you have?
Sergei's numbers don't add up.
You have a different measurement every time. How is that possible?
There is absolutely no margin for error here. Sergei Abakov has lives in his hands. These men's lives. Bill MacArthur, U.S. NASA astronaut, Expedition 12's commander. Cosmonaut Valery Tokarev, the flight engineer. And the $20 million man, Greg Olson.
I will feel most relaxed and most happy.
Brooklyn-born, laser scientist, 60-year-old grandfather, entrepreneur. Call him anything but a tourist.
The term space tourist implies, well, you write a check and you go for a joyride. And believe me, that was not the case at all.
Greg's worked hard to get this far, training for 2 years with the Russian Space Agency. As part of his rehearsal for the role of Rocket Man, Greg had time in zero-gravity training. The zero-G chamber is in a refitted Russian jumbo jet. Sudden dives and climbs reduce gravity for 25 seconds at a time.
As you stand in the plane, all of a sudden you feel yourself lifted up. They want to see how you behave and so on. Well, I think I discovered on the zero-G flight that I really liked this stuff. That I didn't think I was subject to motion sickness, and that I was going to like space.
But Greg's physical condition has cast a shadow over the mission. Respiratory problems have gotten him scrubbed from one mission, and they could leave without him again.
I feel dizzy, but I don't. I want to make sure that I am not a liability to the crew, if anything, an asset.
The main goal of training is to be fit for re-entry. Russian capsules land violently. To ease the blow, crews ride in custom-cast seats. Techniques like this have been used here for 50 years. Russia's cosmonauts have gone into space and returned alive with more success than any other nation. But right now, no one rides this rocket out of Baikonur Cosmodrome until Sergei Abakov says they can. They still try to fit the rescue rocket onto Soyuz. The clock ticks, but Sergei won't be rushed.
I'm not watching the time. It's not about working fast. It's about working well. I have to be absolutely sure that everything is done right, so the crew is safe.
Finally, the escape rocket attaches perfectly to Soyuz, and Sergei gives the okay.
Those gas won't move. Whether the rocket is horizontal or vertical, the way we set it up, that's the way it's going to go into space.
Sergei's team moves to the next crucial task, connecting the rocket's upper and lower stages. It's an operation at once delicate and colossal. Just 62 hours to launch. Sergei's in the thick of it. Minute by minute, his crew makes up for lost time.
Everything's worked out great. Our people really know what they are doing.
Dawn, the day before launch. The hangar doors open to release more than 20 tons of rocket, 12 stories high. For those who will ride this bullet, it's a sight that can weaken the knees.
My concern in the past was that I might be nervous or fearful. It must be the same kind of feeling that men who actually go into battle have before the battle. Am I going to be scared when this rocket is actually taking off?
The Russian Soyuz rocket starts its journey into space as railroad cargo. Baikonur, the launch site, sits in the middle of nowhere. Mission control lies over 2,000 kilometers east in Moscow. It's the domain of the man who runs every Russian launch to the International Space Station. Lead flight director Vladimir Solovyov knows how it feels to fly in space. He was a cosmonaut from 1978 to 86. He'll be at the helm as Expedition 12 takes flight. This spacecraft is expected to travel around 33,000 kilometers per hour. But right now it travels just over 2 kilometers per hour. This same journey has been made before by more than 1,500 rockets. Up until 1955, this was a military site. Then it changed. Baikonur launched Sputnik, a football-sized satellite that began the space race. Soon after, Yuri Gagarin left here to become the first man in space. He rode a rocket so reliable, the design scarcely differs from the vehicle trundling through the Kazakh desert today. The Russians have tried other designs. Across the way, a virtually unknown Russian space project, the space shuttle Buran. Buran looked remarkably like the American space shuttle, except Buran was unmanned and remotely controlled. It flew only once, on November 15, 1988. Then the program ran out of cash, and they switched back to Soyuz. Cheaper and time-tested. At 9 a.m., the rocket reaches the pad. Liftoff in just 24 hours. finish a few Earthbound routines.
Hey, smile.
Yeah, we're happy. We just got our spaceship.
Greg's training is over. The big game is here.
I put in well over 900 hours of training. I had to pass a series of tests and gates. As the time is getting closer to the launch, thinking, this really might be happening now.
At the pad, hydraulics hoist Soyuz into firing position. Right now, it's only around 23 tons. Soon it will take on some 300 tons of fuel.
Let the cosmonauts fly. Let them be alive and well, and let them return to Earth alive and well.
In 20 hours, I will feel very good. Our safety is the number one goal of all people in the Russian space program.
Service towers grip Soyuz, fitting the rocket into a 500-ton clamp that aims it straight. Igor Barmin is Baikonur's launch pad director.
I'm standing on the support ring. It moves around. We move the whole launch system around, including the rocket. They put it in the best position for firing.
Igor orders fueling to begin.
Right now we're fueling the first stage of the rocket with liquid oxygen, kerosene, highly concentrated hydrogen peroxide, and nitrogen.
Керосин, высококонцентрированный перекись водорода, подается азот.
It's a volatile mix. In 1980, as another rocket was fueling up, a booster rocket exploded. In just a few minutes, 48 people died. Launch is less than 5 hours away. Valery Tokarev, Bill MacArthur, and Greg Olson get their last medical checks. No more visitors allowed. Medical staff and cleared officials only. The slightest hint of illness, and they're off the flight.
Every time I see a guy in a white coat, I feel these little trepidations because I know there's something this might do to take my dream away from me.
The rocket's fuel tanks are full. Soyuz is ready. At Mission Control, Moscow, Vladimir Solovyov and his team run pre-launch checks.
Every flight, every mission to space is a very risky business. Space is a very aggressive environment, and there's the constant threat that something may go wrong. We've got to be ready for that moment if it happens.
Expedition 12 is a go. Wilson is about to learn whether he has the right stuff, the key to membership in one of the world's most exclusive clubs.
I never felt and I never will feel I am a cosmonaut or an astronaut. We have far too much respect for the training these guys go through. The small club, and I'm thinking as I'm getting into the vehicle that, hey, I'm really going to do this. As I'm walking the stairs, I don't feel fearful. This is great.
По докладу командира экипажа, экипаж ставку готов. Эти проверки.
The checks are being done in Baikonur. They're checking the rocket, they're checking the spaceship. We're at 2 hours, and so far, everything looks good.
Spacesuit check, one last time. Should Soyuz spring a leak, these suits will be all that stands between the crew and the killing vacuum of deep space.
Checking the cosmonaut suits for air tightness is a very important check. If something's wrong with the spacesuits, the launch will have to be delayed.
Если вдруг что-то не так с скафандром, то, в общем-то, как правило, старт надо
The suits are good to go. Now the action steps into high gear. Crews arm the emergency pod. The service towers retract. In Moscow, dawn breaks. Millions join the workday.
стартовой готовности.
Mission control has been abuzz for hours. 15 minutes to launch.
Экипаж доложил, что герметичность скафандров в норме.
The world tunes in to watch.
The 2-day trip from Earth to the space station is grueling.
Эвакуация всех специалистов боевых расчетов на стартовой позиции. 12
We're going flying in 2 minutes.
The wait is nearly over, but there's still time for trouble. That's why Sergei Abakov can't help but worry.
Чувство удовлетворения бывает, когда...
There's tension until I hear the announcement on launch day that the spaceship has separated from the rocket. There's tension. Only when I hear that can I say, that's it. My job is done.
Seconds before launch. The system goes on automatic.
Выдана команда «Ключ на старт».
At this point, the launch can't be stopped. Seconds. The last towers drop away. Soyuz is now under its own power.
Есть команда «Пуск», бортовое питание.
20 seconds. In the empty Kazakh desert, and in the heart of mission control, time stands as still as the rocket on the pad.
дыхание кислород.
2 minutes 13 seconds, and that the second umbilical tower moving away from the Soyuz. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket transporting William Eckert, Larry Tokarev, and Gregory Olsen to orbit space.
At first, it almost seems like it's in slow motion. Fuel by the time ignites in Soyuz's engines. After a minute, it's merely at 2,000 kilometers an hour. Into the flight, charges blow loose the 4 booster rockets. By now, the escape unit's of no use. It's jettisoned too, and the lighter Soyuz reaches more than 33,000 kilometers an hour.
I tried to lift my arm, and I felt like I had a 10-pound weight to push against this weight to lift it up. Then I knew, I said, yeah, we're really accelerating.
Soon, the signal there in space, a figurine left loose in the capsule, begins to float.
When you go into orbit, and that's a big moment, we have a little doll. This thing hangs and swings around in a cabinet, and when you see it start floating, then you know you're in orbit.
Еще раз напоминали, 8:25, выдать команду Женя 7.
9 minutes after liftoff, Soyuz begins its circuit of the Earth. Its electronics now boosted by solar panels. Greg Olsen is more than 200 kilometers from his home planet. His dream is reality. But it's not all roses.
Почти 4 часа.
They've been in their spacesuits for hours, and believe me, it's horrible. They'll be sweating like crazy and wanting to get out of the spacesuits and put on regular clothes.
Job 1 is an air check. The rigors of launch could have loosened seals in the capsule or the adjoining utility module.
Pressure accepted. No changes. Are we given permission to unseal the helmets? You can open your helmets. We've checked for airtightness, and everything's airtight, thank God. Once we figured the capsule was airtight, I gave them permission to open the hatch into the utility compartment, where they can take off the spacesuits, clean up, and change, then have lunch and dinner at the same time.
As we're in the habitat module, I'm feeling, wow, I'm one of the guys. I'm not an astronaut, I'm not a cosmonaut, but I'm a space guy. And here we are about to, we're going to open some food and have a juice. Yeah, it's just great.
Once done snacking, the spacemen will set about their first assignment. They're to steer a course further out, around 350 kilometers from Earth. Their destination, the International Space Station. humanity's only permanent presence in space. It's staffed now by NASA's John Phillips and Russia's Sergei Krikalev. After 6 months on duty, they're ready to come home. To relieve them, the incoming crew must chase the station through space and gently dock to its hull.
This task is like jeweler's work. They're 10,000 kilometers away from the space station, chasing it very, very fast. We're giving the ship boosts to speed up, pushing it into higher orbit.
It's a celestial game of tag, played at 28,000 kilometers an hour, high above our blue planet.
It was awe-inspiring. The fact that you see how finite the Earth is, and the sky is dark, and this thin blue band, which is like an eggshell on an egg, is the atmosphere.
You can see the International Space Station on the far.
Slowly narrowing the gap, Soyuz spends 3 days covering nearly 1.5 million kilometers.
Range rate.
Now the game gets interesting.
Today, for the Larry Chokorat, Bill MacArthur, and Greg Olson.
Both vehicles are traveling near the same mind-boggling speed, so their encounter seems to occur in slow motion. When people talk about something being rocket science, this is what they mean. When docking to the space station, mathematical precision is life and death. Computers are in control, but they can't guarantee against mishaps. June 25, 1997. An unmanned Russian supply ship, the Progress, approached the Mir space station. Three cosmonauts were aboard Mir. Suddenly, Progress swerved. The bus-sized vehicle slammed into Mir, puncturing her hull. Mir's cabin pressure plummeted. The crew scrambled to seal off the damaged bulkhead, barely averting disaster. Years later, Soyuz is trying to dock at another space station.
Copy.
Millimeter by millimeter.
The crosshair is a little lower, but on Visco periscope it's aligned pretty good.
Closer and closer.
7, the crosshairs are aligned. Excellent. Verify contact. We'll copy. Range 4. Range rate 0.15. Range 3. 2.
They've done it.
Contact.
A perfect dock. Greg's crewmates have arrived at what will be home for the next 6 months. If only they can open the hatch.
I mean, we're here and we're pulling on this hatch. Well, come loose. Is this going to be able to have to turn around and come back because we can't open the hatch? Finally got it to open up. Krikalev and Phillips had opened their hatch.
Привет. It's good to be here. Whoa. Very
Expedition 12, arriving.
Hey, man.
It's a successful moment. We're all hugging each other.
Good to see you. We got packages coming off everywhere.
Maybe Greg's not a tourist, but he still travels with a video camera. For his $20 million, Greg gets to spend 7 more days in the void, and he's going to record as much of it as he can before riding home with the outbound space station crew.
Breakfast time on Tuesday.
With him will be a celebrity. Any real space fan knows the name Sergei Krikalev. This legendary cosmonaut has logged more time up here than anyone. A total of more than 2 years.
Commander Sergei Krikalev on the treadmill. He's a great person. He has a great sense of humor. He's very modest.
Now we're getting some action.
He's super skilled. I mean, he came in and he just tried to make me feel at home and as comfortable as could be.
Even though they trained relentlessly for this, the new guys have to work to adjust to life in space.
There's a daily planning conference.
Right now, they're feeling weightless. Everything is light, everything is flying and tumbling, everything's mixed up. You have to react to everything and turn your head a lot. And as a result, you get motion sickness, like seasickness. And finally, you get so sick of it, you say, the hell with it, let it all fly around. I'm just going to look straight ahead.
Just imagine yourself floating. It does feel like magic. You know, how can you float in air? It was a continual highlight. In my sleeping bag.
For the old and new crew members, the 7-day handoff involves countless details.
And Bill MacArthur will become commander of the ISS when we leave.
It's Greg's chance to explore, experiment, and enjoy.
I would get out of my sleeping bag and I go right over to the window and I look out at the Earth and bring one of my cameras and just take some pictures and say, wow. And I never got tired of looking at the Earth and saying, wow. You see a nice picture of the world. Here's the Soyuz that I will return on. Up at the transfer chamber. And on the solar cells, we can see the arm, the robot arm.
On Earth, 10 days have passed since launch. But on the space station, the sun has risen and set nearly 200 times. For his $20 million, Greg Olson has circled the globe more than 100 times, a total of nearly 5 million kilometers. He and his companions share a special bond. Now it's time to say goodbye.
I had trained with Tokarev and MacArthur 5 months, but the last 2 months very closely. Now I'm leaving these guys behind.
One by one, Greg and Sergei and John squeeze into the tiny return vehicle.
It's like a movie with 3 parts. At the end of part 2, when you close that hatch, now part 3 is descent. You better get in that thing and get going because it's all on schedule. Coming down, there was going to be some rough riding ahead. We had to prepare for it.
Latching that hatch begins any space mission's most perilous chapter. Re-entry. About 350 kilometers below, Russian Air Force helicopters fan out across central Kazakhstan. When the capsule touches down, they'll retrieve it. At Mission Control, Moscow, Vladimir Solovyov and team prepare to unhook Soyuz from the space station. But there's a snag. Rough translation, Moscow, we have a problem. About 350 kilometers up, about to cut loose from the International Space Station, the Soyuz re-entry capsule has big trouble. Somewhere, somehow, the capsule is losing air.
I saw the pressure was dropping. It was 750-ish, and it was going down, and I got it to the 600s. I saw Krikalev watching it carefully.
Vladimir Solovyov has run 100 space flights, but this is a first.
Well, but hold on a minute. Don't do anything without my command.
There's no good time for a space vehicle to leak air, but during re-entry, the risk is even graver. As the men at either end of this fragile tether know. June 29, 1971. Soyuz 11 departed the Salyut 1 space station carrying 3 cosmonauts. The return flight seemed flawless. Until the final plunge, when the capsule started to leak air. When the cosmonauts were retrieved, they were all dead. Their oxygen had leaked out. This Soyuz has sprung a leak.
Все, ребят, пишем на камеру, закрываем люки и ведем репортаж. По возможности.
On Earth and in space, they try to diagnose and solve the problem.
Так, вы проверили сигнализацию закрытия люков?
All Greg Olson can do is sit and wait as Sergei tries for a better seal.
I knew they were working on it. I knew they were in contact with the ground, and I knew probably had the best pilot you could ever have in Sergei Krikalev.
Sergei radios Moscow. It seems he's stabilized cabin pressure. The leak appears to have stopped. It's Vladimir Solovyov's call. He decides, go for it. The re-entry capsule unlocks from the space station. The journey home begins. All is well for 2.5 hours as they circle closer to Earth. But as Soyuz hits the planet's atmosphere, the cabin pressure starts to drop again. Soon, 12% of their breathable cabin air is gone. The crew has 2 choices, both risky. boost cabin pressure using pure oxygen, which is highly flammable, or as a last hope, trust their spacesuits. Just then, the radio goes dead. All Mission Control can do is watch and wait and hope. The retrieval helicopters await word. Once they have the capsule's coordinates, they'll take off. The capsule re-enters like a meteor. A blaze of light across the morning sky. Good or bad, they're on their way down. As planned, a series of parachutes slow the Soyuz from 900 to just 25 kilometers an hour.
Давление атмосферной в точке посадки 542 миллиметра.
It's down. Recovery crews surround the scorched capsule and the gouge it made in the Kazakh desert. A tracking device automatically shoots off. The hatch is jammed. Finally, the recovery crew can reach for the men inside. One by one, the spacemen in their bulky spacesuits are plucked from the cramped capsule. Sergei Krikalev looks okay. So does Greg Olson. But NASA astronaut John Phillips is barely conscious, as white as a ghost. salts revive him. It'll be days before John's 100%. The episode triggers what, by historical standards, is a startling admission. A few days later, Sergei Krikalev publicly labels the loss of cabin pressure a serious situation. The margin may have been narrow, the risks enormous. But a vintage Russian craft made the circuit to and from space yet again. This was Soyuz launch number 814. But for Greg Olson, it was launch number one and only.
The air feels great.